Hi, everybody. My name is Andrew, and I will be discussing my results and my impressions of the two questionnaires regarding understanding leadership and the ethics associated with strategic decision making. Starting off with the first questionnaire aimed at gauging what it means to be a leader and where we might fall on this spectrum, I ended up scoring within a point of each of the categories. Four out of the six categories each landed at 15. The highest, however, was the emphasis on the process, on which I scored a 16. After rereading the points that applied to this summation, the emphasis on the process to me really speaks to the methods in which a leader influences their followers or supporters to carry out a task or yield some kind of an outcome. This highlights the idea that the success of a leader could potentially be primarily determined by how effective they are in gathering and motivating others to reach a goal. With this in mind, I picture myself and how I tend to utilize this mentality in my position as a manager at the waste management company I work for currently, in my attempts to keep my team members motivated and on task to meet the sustainability goals within our department and the overarching goal of the goals of the business as a whole. I believe that by having that end goal in mind, understanding its importance and keeping things positive and on track, it helps me relay that same energy onto others, to really just keep on keeping on and come together to get the job done. I also believe that this ties into the importance of developing those relationships with your teammates or followers, which ironically ended up being my lowest scoring category at a 14. The emphasis on the process in this case arguably should include the relationships that need to develop along the way in order to really establish and maintain success. The fact that these categories ended up scoring relatively close to each other and that they could realistically overlap if you really try to connect them to each other tells me that they are designed to be integrated with each other, and I think is probably the correct answer on what it means to be a leader. It's really supposed to be a balanced culmination of traits, skills, relationships, processes, and so forth that, when combined, make that person really shine and make people want to follow them. Moving on to the ethics questionnaire, my decision making aligned with the category of duty ethics with a score of 4. This category involves adhering to established rules and guidelines, even when dealing with ethical dilemmas. I typically feel like this is the best policy since it demonstrates the most impartiality when making decisions as a leader. In my day-to-day, I think this is important as a manager when it comes to any kind of disciplinary action that may need to be levied on an employee for any kind of dereliction of duty that results in not meeting our goals as a team and therefore as a company. As much as I can be empathetic and understanding towards those around me, I wouldn't consider it right or fair to let one employee slide in their workload while another is being reprimanded. Both are typically going to be expected to share the burden within the scope of their work. If there are other factors at play, or ample communication has been made to me to really express any difficulties in getting things done, however, that obviously changes the situation. Changes can then be made to the workload. We can alter the amount of time spent in the field versus in the office. Accommodations can be provided if necessary to make things more feasible, etc., etc. Additionally, maintaining a sense of duty and responsibility is arguably also a protective mechanism in the case of things going wrong. If I don't speak up, or if any leader in general doesn't speak up about a situation that seems to be negligent of rules or policies, and an active effort is not being made to really nip something in the bud sooner than later, it's likely going to come out in some other way and could potentially create an even bigger dilemma for myself as the leader, my team members, or possibly the entire organization. I think that overall this was a very interesting exercise and a unique assessment of individual understandings of what it means to be an effective leader and an effective decision maker in any field. But in our case, we're concerned more with public health practice. One thing I will say is that answering some of the questions on both surveys were difficult due to how broad they were and kind of open to interpretation. For example, on the first questionnaire, question 12 mentions positive ends. Well, positive to whom? What would be considered positive to me might not be something that is positive to somebody else. Likewise on survey 2, with doing what is right, same thing, right to whom? What I consider right might not be what somebody else might consider is right. Even with the outline of the rule following or following procedures in what was described in the handout, might not necessarily mean the right thing for everybody. But maybe I'm just overthinking things. But that was just kind of my 2 cents on that matter. All in all, I think this was a really cool assignment and a solid glimpse into my assessment of my own leadership characteristics. Really looking forward to learning more about this topic in this class. Thanks, everybody.